What's up, guys? Coach Carnivore Invictus, and it's a dreary day here in southern Mississippi. And I've got a bunch of stuff to do, but I'm kind of hoping this rain dies down. So I thought I'd make a video for my YouTube channel. I've been doing a lot of interviews, Todd Souter, Dave Mack, and such. They're always asking me how to connect with me on social media, and I say I have a YouTube channel that I never use, and I need to, and I keep saying I need to, and I never do. So I just got this new laptop too. So I want to start making some content for my YouTube. And I thought, what a perfect way to reintroduce myself on my YouTube channel than to talk about why the carnivore diet is the most appropriate diet for the human species. The most indicated diet for the human species. My dog is probably going to make an appearance, at least in sound, only in the audio. She's down here at my feet and wants me to throw the ball. So, human beings, you can probably the next video I'll do is how nutritional studies are not science at all, like not even remotely close to science, and that's what most people base their understanding of of trying to figure, like, humans are the only species on Earth that needs to figure out what they're supposed to eat. And most people look to studies and analyses and data and and control trials and the sacred texts, and none of them, uh, no matter how much you pile them on top of each other, amount to anything at all. Like, you can multiply infinity by zero and you still have zero. So what we look to are harder sciences, and we'll start with observational anthropology, where they have determined beyond doubt that according to the stable nitrogen isotope analysis of the collagen in long bones of our very, very ancient ancestors, humans have been hyper-carnivorous for well over 2 million years, possibly as long as 3 or 4 million years, as a human being. In our ancestors before we came human. So you've got, you go way down the evolutionary chain. Eventually, you're going to find that we were frugivores and herbivores. That is way down the evolutionary chain, long before we became human. And I'll get into that. I'll get into the physiological changes that have taken place, that no longer allow us basically um, to consume plants and derive any kind of nutritional value from them, or mitigate the natural toxins that they all contain, because plants don't want to be eaten any more than animals. So the long bone stable nitrogen isotope analysis in the collagen shows conclusively that, for many millions of years we've been eating primarily meat. And so, and there's the Israeli study you could look up, that humans were hypercarnivorous apex predators for 2 million years before the invention of agriculture, and I'll get into that in a second. Our stomach pH is among the lowest, the most acidic in the entire animal kingdom. I need to look at the camera, sorry guys. So, you have like vultures and hyenas. Our stomach pH is down there with those types of animals, carrion animals. It's more acidic than lions, more acidic than wolves, more acidic than tigers, or your quintessential predators, land predators with very, very acidic stomach acids because they eat only meat. And a lot of anthropologists believe that we started out eating meat as scavengers. So we would, pick off the sloppy seconds of other predators who killed their animals, and then we would eat whatever they didn't eat. And then eventually, consuming all of that high fat and growing our brains through consuming that much fat, we and our plus the insatiable desire for meat, we learned how to hunt. Now, a lot of people will say we don't have claws or teeth, so that means that we're not really carnivores. I mean, you can just Google this: carnivores that don't have teeth. There's carnivores that don't have teeth at all. I mean, the blue whale, for instance, is a carnivore that doesn't have teeth. So, you know, our physiological makeup, as in terms of how we kill our prey, has nothing to do with whether or not we're carnivores. Our weapon was our brains and our intelligence, and we learned how to make tools and weapons, and we learned how to track prey. We learned how to hunt prey, and you know our ability to run over long distances and wear prey down was a big factor, and you know the need to do all these things required more brain power, more brain size, and more energy going to the brain. And that's why our gut started to shrink, and our intestinal tract started to shrink, and our brains grew. So the perfect example would be if you look at everybody wants to compare us to a gorilla because they eat nothing but plants, and that's an interesting comparison. They have very, very large guts and very, very small brains relative to ours. They're in a constant state of flatulence, and they just have physiologies, particularly in their digestive system, that are very, very different from ours. They have a long digestive tract that is designed to ferment the massive amounts of food that they eat. They eat 40 pounds of vegetation a day. They also have to eat their own shit um, because the fermentation process produces B vitamins, but they don't absorb those the first time through. So they eat their shit, and that's where they get their B vitamins from. So enjoy, like when you see a vegan, compare it, like, where does a gorilla get his protein from, bro? And I'll get into that as well. Um, you know, it gets them from plants. No, it doesn't. But it also has to eat its own excrement just to get the vitamins it needs. You might say that eating its own shit is its B12 supplement that most vegans have to take because they're not getting B12 from the animals. So um, if you want to get into the physiology of it, like a gorilla has a cecum, which is basically an organ that houses the bacteria that breaks down all of this massive amounts of fiber that the gorilla has to eat every day. You don't have a cecum. You used to have a cecum. It's called an appendix now, basically. It's atrophied and vestigial mostly, and you do have the ability to ferment some of the fiber that you eat, but the amount of nutritional value that you get from that fermentation, because your digestive system is so short and because you don't have a cecum, it's minuscule amounts of nutritional value from eating plants. Most of the fibrous plant material that you consume goes from mouth to anus completely undigested, completely untouched. And of course, anybody who's eaten corn and seen corn in their toilet undigested can just that's I mean, duh. So your digestive tract is not physiologically designed to eat plants. There's still some vestigial leftover ability to derive some nutritional value from it, but most of it is completely unbioavailable, and particularly our ability to mitigate the harms in their natural toxins is not very well developed anymore. Plants contain far more pesticides naturally than what actual humans spray on them. So everybody's worried about glyphosate and atrazine and everything, which you should be. But there's far more pesticides in the plants than there are sprayed on by farmers. You have, mostly the anti-nutrients, oxalates, lectins, the gluten, which is just a total abomination. Grains should never be consumed by humans. You cannot digest them at all, and they wreak absolute havoc on your system. And everybody thinks that we've been consuming them for thousands of years, as if that is any kind of uh, length of time compared to the millions of years that we ate basically only meat. Like, walk out into nature and find carbohydrates. Go ahead, walk out into nature anytime, anywhere, and find substantial amounts of carbohydrates. They just don't exist in nature, and most of the plant material, most of the fungal material out there is violently inedible to humans. And nothing that exists on any farm really exists in nature. Everything on the farm is a creation of man usually within the last few hundreds or thousands of years. It's very, very recent on an evolutionary time scale. You're not designed to eat it anymore. You're still not designed to eat it. And frankly, it's killing people. So there's the physiological aspect of it. And then there's the biochemical aspect of it, particularly when you're consuming starchy carbs or sugars. They will, spike your blood sugar. You have, oh, you always have about a tablespoon of sugar in your blood at all times if your blood sugar is normal, and and actually that the sugar in your blood is actually is still a toxin. You need it to perform. You need it to perform, certain metabolic functions, but in the blood, it's actually toxic no matter how much is in there. But you have systems in place, mechanisms in place to mitigate the effects of that toxin. And so the primary effect of sugar is that it's glycating, and glycation is the non-enzymatic binding of sugar to protein, which deranges the protein and makes it dysfunctional. So it's kind of, just to give it a very, very simplified example of what it does. Imagine you're trying to run a race, a sprint, and you have a toddler clinging to your leg. You know what I mean? And then you get more and more toddlers clinging to you, and eventually you fall on your face and you can't move at all and you can't do nothing, and they keep piling on you, and then you suffocate and die. Kind of a simplified explanation of glycation. There's always glycation in the blood, and it's always inflammatory. It causes inflammation. But you have the mechanisms. One of those mechanisms, by the way, is cholesterol. Cholesterol is anti-inflammatory. Everybody's worried about cholesterol with their heart disease. When the cholesterol is there to make sure heart disease doesn't happen. It's the complete opposite of what actually happens. So when you consume excess uh, carbohydrates, all carbs being sugar, fiber is actually a sugar. It's a polysaccharide, saccharide meaning sugar. You just can't digest it. So all carbs are sugar, and except with the exception of fiber, any carbohydrate that you consume will be converted. If it's not glucose already, it will be converted to glucose in the blood, and that will raise your blood sugar, and that creates a metabolic emergency. And that your body releases insulin to get the sugar out of your blood, either into the cells to be used by the mitochondria or into the muscle cells as um, my goodness, glycogen. Sorry, it's early in the morning. Or um, you know, convert it into triglycerides to be stored as fat. Basically, that's what the insulin does when the sugar is high. So we know that excess amounts of sugar are not good. They're not good. You have to be very, very careful when you're consuming a carbohydrate-based diet, not to overconsume the carbohydrates. Otherwise, you end up with metabolic illness. You end up, you might not be overweight. You might be, a lot of people think that they're shredded and they're in shape, and they're consuming carbohydrates when their insides are glycated and inflamed, and you're on the journey to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, these sorts of things. They all have the same root cause: it's chronically elevated blood sugar. Um, so it's highly inflammatory, it's highly harmful, and I will do videos on the actual cause of how this actually causes heart disease. It's all inflammation, mostly caused by sugar, mostly caused by the glycation in the sugar, also by the seed oils. Sorry. Um, but what we do know is that carbohydrates in excess, and it's really easy to overconsume carbohydrates because your blood sugar will spike up. You'll get a massive release of insulin, and then the insulin kind of overdoes its job. It'll clear too much sugar from your blood, and then your blood sugar drops below homeostatic levels, and then the hormonal reaction to that is to cause hunger. Hunger is entirely hormonal. So your blood sugar drops below its normal, and you become hungry again. And that's where you get these hunger and crash cycles. That's why people have to eat 5, 6 times a day when they're on carbohydrates. They constantly have to graze. They constantly have to snack. They need 3 main meals a day with the snacks in between. And then the establishment tells you that's good for you. That's keeping your metabolism high. No, that is wrecking your metabolism. That is wrecking your metabolic functions. You should not be hungry all the time. You're not designed to be hungry all the time. Humans did not eat 6 meals a day before the invention of agriculture, before civilization. They just didn't. So we know that carbohydrates are terribly harmful. We know that plants all have toxins. They all have anti-nutrients. They are all inflammatory. They cause things like leaky gut and joint issues and skin issues. They mess with your hormones. They absolutely wreck your hormones, especially in women. And it just kind of pulls it all together that the plant and fungus, the mushrooms aren't basically have the same issues, the same anti-nutrients. They just don't want to be eaten. And people have this idea that animals are alive and sentient, and plants are just there just for us to eat, and they don't, they're just nothing. They're alive, but they're not really. They're just, they're dead. They're like, this. What do they call someone whose brain is no longer functioning? They call them a vegetable. So, but it's not. That's not what vegetables are. They're alive. They don't want to be eaten. They have their own way of expressing sentience and the will and the desire to live. Um, and one of those is producing toxins that make it very uncomfortable for them to be eaten. And you won't have an acute reaction in most cases unless, but most people are, a lot of people are very sensitive to like gluten and things like that. But like, the oxalates don't typically cause an acute reaction, but you consume them long enough and you will have joint issues, you will have kidney stones, you will have everything, lots of things that are not, you're not supposed to have as a functioning human being. It's not just part of life. It's cumulative harm that you've caused yourself by consuming things that you're not supposed to consume. I'm talking about plants. You're not designed to eat plants unless you're starving. I mean, if you're starving, go ahead and eat plants. Eat whatever you have to eat, but most people are not starving. And by the way, India has one of the highest plant-based diets in the world, and they also have the highest rate of diabetes in the world. So I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know how much more information and evidence you need to understand that plants are not meant for humans to eat. We're not meant to consume plants. We haven't been consuming plants long enough to affect our genes, our genetic expressions. We don't have the digestive system for plants, and we cannot mitigate the toxic load of plants, and particularly um, when the establishment tells you should base your entire diet on carbohydrates, starchy carbohydrates, things that are basically sugar. I mean, if you're eating bread, you're eating sugar. If you're eating pasta, you're eating sugar. If you're eating whole grains, ancient grains, whatever kind of grains you can think of, it's sugar. That's all it is. It has very, very minimal nutritional value, and very, very minimal bioavailable nutrition. Because that's one thing that the anti-nutrients do is they block nutrient absorption. The plants are very, very adamant they don't want to be eaten. They're kind of dicks about it. They're like, oh, you're going to eat me? Well, you're not even going to get any nutrition from me because I'm going to block the absorption with these anti-nutrients, the oxalates, the lectins, just countless chemicals that are in there. There's nothing that you can eat from the grocery store, plant-based, that has less than 60 known carcinogens. Look it up. Botany 101. So we have our anthropology, we have our physiology, and we have our biochemistry, our biochemical reaction to consuming carbohydrates, consuming plants, and none of it points to us being able to eat plants at all. Um, Consume them if you want to. Like, I'm not here to be dogmatic. If you like broccoli, if somehow you actually like broccoli, if somehow you actually like Brussels sprouts. I don't think there's very many. I mean, there's always outliers. I don't think 1 in 100 people actually like the taste of broccoli, unless it's drenched in butter and salt or ranch dressing. Everybody be honest. Or cheese. Cheese is a big one. You know what I mean? Like, um, if you ever ate a pasta noodle, it doesn't taste like anything. What you really like about pasta is the sauce, and especially if there's meat in it, and a lot of salt, probably. Um, so I think if you're really honest and you just look at the hard facts, you understand that meat is what you're supposed to eat, and that should be the foundation of what your diet is. Um, and it's amazing that we, in the current year, we still have to debate this. Um, and that's what, I'll get into the nutritional studies and analyses and why they're completely worthless. And there's just mountains and mountains and mountains of piles of papers and studies, and it's all contradictory, obviously. It's meant to be contradictory. It's meant to confuse you. It's meant to convince you that you're too stupid to know what's going on. So just listen to the experts. Just listen to the doctors and the scientists. And they don't know what they're talking about any more than you do. They're just they know how to use big words. That's about it. So that about wraps it up. And if you're considering a carnivore diet and you haven't started yet, understand that that the transition phase from a standard American diet in particular, or a plant-based diet, vegetarian, vegan diet, is not as simple as just starting to eat meat and restricting vegetables, restricting plants. There is a very long, drawn-out process. You have damaged your body for many, many, many years, maybe decades, maybe your entire life, and there's a lot of damage that needs to be healed. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to go through stages. Your body is going to require different things at different points in that stage, in those stages. Um, so it's a carnivore diet, a carnivore lifestyle is the most indicated diet for the human species. But you might have to be very careful and very selective about what you eat, especially in the beginning days, months, weeks, years. Because it could take that long for you to heal. It could take that long for your body to regulate and level itself out to where, like take Michaela Peterson, she was lion diet for many, many years because she ate anything else except ruminant meat, salt, and water, including spices and pepper and any other kind of meat. It caused her autoimmune issues to flare up, and all she could do was eat, strip loins, salt, and water, or any kind of ruminant meat, but she liked strip loins. Well, now recently she's come out and said that her autoimmune issues have finally healed after many years to the point where she feels like she can introduce other foods into her life. So that process might take that long for you. So it's best to hire a coach. Um, and this isn't an advertisement for me as a coach, as a carnivore coach, but I am a carnivore coach. So if you're looking into the carnivore diet, hire someone like me who can walk you through the process, who can troubleshoot the issues that you're having, and understand that everything that you're going through and everything that is going to heal you is going to be hormonal. It has infinitely more about what you eat than how much you eat. And I'm going to get into that as well, how you cannot consume calories, and calories have nothing to do with the human metabolism. Got lots of stuff to talk about on this channel, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I thank you for watching, and hopefully, please give a like and subscribe, by the way. Let me know that I'm reaching some people. Feel free to comment, pros or cons. I'm happy to discuss. Let's have a discussion. Let's not be internet trolls and call each other names, and because, like none of you would speak to me the way, some people speak to each other on the internet. If you were sitting across from me, you just wouldn't. And that's one of the drawbacks of the internet. Everybody turns everybody into a-holes. So if you have something to say that's against, if you disagree, feel free to say so in a respectful manner, and I will reply in a respectful manner. And if you don't, I'm just going to block you. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.